The workshop still smelled of smoke, but it was standing. The fire was gone. The night had been long, but dawn came anyway. Painting the sky with pale light, Soraya sat on the steps outside, holding Rin close. His small chest rose and fell. Gently, he was safe. That was all that mattered to her. Elias stood beside her, tired, his hands black with soot. He looked at the burned walls, then at Soraya. His voice was firm, but his eyes were warm. "You didn't just save my shop. You saved me." Soraya lowered her gaze. "I only did what was right." "No," Elias said softly. "You did more. You risked your life for someone who is not your kind. That means more than right. It means loyalty. It means courage." For the first time, Soraya felt his words reach her heart fully. She had been rejected so many times, but now, here was someone who saw her worth. The city talks by midday. The story had spread through the market. Neighbors whispered as they passed. She ran into the fire to save the boy. She carried out his tools, too. She saved what she could, even while burning herself. Some still sneered. "She's still an alien. Don't forget that." But others began to doubt their own hatred. A woman at the market muttered, "Maybe she isn't like the others." A man replied, "Maybe. We were wrong." For the first time, not everyone spoke against her. Some spoke for her. A decision that evening, Elias gathered a few people at the workshop. The walls were charred, but inside, the lamps glowed softly. Soraya stood near the back, holding Rin. She felt every eye on her, heavy like stone. Elias stepped forward. His voice was steady. "You all know what happened last night. Some of you saw it. Soraya saved my shop. She saved my life. She saved my boy here." He nodded toward Rin, who smiled shyly. The room was silent. Elias continued, "I don't care where she was born. I don't care what she looks like. She has proved she belongs, and I will not turn her away. She is family now." The word hung in the air. Family. Some people shifted uncomfortably. Others nodded slowly. Soraya held her breath, afraid to hope. A child's voice, then Rin spoke. His small voice broke the silence. "Mama saved everyone. She is brave." The innocence in his words struck deeper than Elias's speech. The crowd looked at the boy, small, fragile, yet full of truth. One man finally said, "If a child can see her worth, maybe we should too." The first smile, not everyone agreed. Some left angrily, but a few stayed. A few even offered help. A woman placed bread on the table. "For the child," she said quietly. Another man said, "I can spare wood to fix the walls." Soraya's eyes filled with tears. These were small things, but for her, they were mountains. For the first time, strangers were not shutting doors. They were opening them. Elias looked at her and smiled faintly. "See, change begins with one step." She whispered back, "No. Change begins with one human." Peace at last that night. The workshop was quiet again. But it felt different now. The walls were still black. The air still smelled of smoke. But inside, hope was alive. Rin lay on his blanket, eating the bread with joy. Elias sat by the lamp, carving another toy. Soraya watched them both, her heart heavy with gratitude. She remembered her husband's last words. "Protect our child," she whispered softly. "I kept my promise." The message as the lamp burned low. Soraya looked at Elias. "You gave me work when no one else would. You gave my child safety. You gave us more than food or shelter. You gave us a future." Elias shook his head. "No, Soraya. You gave me something too. You reminded me that kindness matters more than fear." The two sat in silence, but it was not the silence of strangers. It was the silence of family. Outside, the city was still divided. Some hated, some doubted, some began to change. The struggle was not over. But Soraya was no longer alone. For the first time, she believed tomorrow would not just commit, would be worth living. Morning light spilled into the workshop, warm and golden. Inside, Soraya swept the floor while Elias checked his tools. Rin played quietly in the corner, stacking blocks into tall towers. For a moment, the place felt like a home safe, ordinary, almost normal. But outside, the world was changing. The first signs of trouble, the bell above the door, rang as a customer entered. Elias greeted him with his usual firm but polite voice. "What do you need?" Elias asked. The man placed a broken wheel on the counter. But his eyes shifted toward Soraya, who stood behind, cleaning a wrench. His face twisted. "You let her work here." The man said sharply. "She works hard," Elias replied calmly. "She fixed half the tools yesterday." The man shook his head. "I don't care. If she touches my things, I'd take my business elsewhere." He grabbed the wheel and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that Rin jumped in fright. Soraya froze, her hands gripping the wrench tightly. Shame burned her face. "I am sorry," she whispered. Elias looked at her firmly. "Don't be. You did nothing wrong." The whispers grew. By midday, 2 more customers had turned away. Word spread through the market. Elias works with an alien. Some laughed at him. Others warned him he would lose everything. Soraya watched with growing fear. Every lost customer was like a knife in her chest. She felt guilty, as if her presence was poison to Elias's business. That night, when Rin was asleep, she tried to speak. "You should send us away," she said softly. "Your shop is suffering because of me." Elias paused, wiping oil from his hands. He looked at her with steady eyes. "No, I gave you a chance, and you proved yourself. I won't throw you out because others can't see your worth." Her voice broke. "But they hate me." "Then let them," he said. "I don't." His words were like a shield. But she knew even shields could break. The market incident the next day, Elias sent Soraya to the market with a list of supplies. Rin walked by her side, clutching her hand. At first, everything was quiet. But when people recognized her, the air shifted. "Look, it's the alien widow," someone muttered. "She's bringing her disease into our food." Another hissed. Soraya tried to ignore them, but whispers grew into shouts. "Go back to where you came from. You don't belong here." Rin hid behind her skirt, trembling. Soraya gathered her courage and kept walking. She picked up the supplies quickly, her hands shaking. Then hurried back to the workshop. By the time she arrived, tears stung her eyes. Elias noticed and set down his tools. "What happened?" She shook her head, forcing a smile. "Nothing. Just words." But inside, those words cut deeper than blades. The threat that evening. As Elias locked up, a group of men appeared outside. Their faces were hard, their voices sharp. Elias, one of them, called, "You have one chance. Get rid of the alien, or you'll regret it." Elias stood tall. "She stays." The man sneered. "Then so does trouble." They walked away, but their warning hung in the air like a storm cloud. Soraya had heard every word. She pressed a hand to her chest, fear rising. For the first time, she wondered if her presence might not only ruin Elias's business, but also put his life in danger. A moment of weakness. That night, Soraya sat awake while Rin slept peacefully beside her. The workshop was quiet, but her mind was loud. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I should leave. Maybe it is the only way to protect him." To protect Elias, her heart ached at the thought of walking into the cold streets again. But what if staying meant destruction for the one man who had shown her kindness? Her eyes filled with tears. She looked at Rin's sleeping face, his small chest rising and falling. "But where would we go?" She whispered. The silence gave no answer. Elias's choice in the morning, Saraya prepared to speak her decision. She approached Elias as he hammered a nail into a frame. "Elias," she began, "I think we should go." He stopped, turning to her with a stern look. "No," she blinked. "But no," he said again, firmer. "I chose this. I knew people would talk. I knew there would be trouble. But I will not let fear decide for me. And I will not let you walk back into the streets." For a long moment, she stood frozen. His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. For the first time, she realized he was not just giving her work. He was standing beside her. The unseen dangers, they returned to work. Saraya felt a spark of hope again. But outside, the group of men who had threatened Elias were already making plans. "Tomorrow," one of them said, "we burn the alien out of that shop." The widow knew nothing of their scheme. Inside, she smiled faintly as Rin laughed at a tower of blocks. For a brief moment, she believed maybe they could endure the storm together. But the storm was already on its way. The screen fades to black. Night settled over the city like a heavy blanket. The workshop was quiet, lit only by the glow of a single oil lamp. Elias worked at his bench, hammering softly, while Saraya mended a torn cloth by hand. Rin was asleep in his little corner, holding the wooden toy Elias had given him. For a moment, peace lived inside those walls, but outside, hatred was awake. The fire begins in the shadows of the street. The men who had threatened Elias gathered with torches in hand. Their faces were hard, their voices low with anger. "That alien doesn't belong here," one muttered. "Tonight, we make sure she leaves," another hissed. They lit the torches. Flames dancing in the dark and crept toward the workshop. Inside, Saraya suddenly lifted her head. Her alien senses caught the faint crackle of fire. Her heart raced. She rose quickly, stepping toward the door. "Elias," she whispered, her voice sharp. "Something is wrong." He frowned, wiping his hands. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, the window flashed orange. The smell of smoke filled the air. Chaos flames licked up the side of the workshop. The men outside shouted, "Burn it down. Burn it down with the alien inside." Elias cursed, rushing to the door, but Saraya grabbed his arm. "No, they are waiting. They want you to come out." He froze, torn between rage and reason. Then Saraya ran past him, straight into the smoke. "Saraya!" Elias shouted, but she was already gone. Her curd she burst into the night, shielding her face from the fire's heat. The men laughed when they saw her. "Look. The alien runs into the flames. Let her burn." But Saraya did not run away. She ran toward the fire. She grabbed a heavy bucket, filled it with water from the well, and threw it against the burning wall. Steam hissed into the air. Again and again, she poured water, her arms burning, her lungs choking. She would not stop. Inside, Rin coughed in his sleep. The smoke was spreading. Saraya's heart screamed, "My child. He cannot die here." She pushed past the flames, dashed inside, and lifted Rin into her arms. He coughed weakly, clinging to her neck. "Hold on, my son," she whispered. "Mama will not let go." Elias sees the truth. Elias fought his way through the smoke, trying to cover the tools and machines with wet cloths. But when he turned, he saw Saraya carrying Rin out of the fire, her face covered in ash, her arms trembling. In that moment, he understood she was not weak. She was not dangerous. She was stronger than anyone he had ever known. The turning point, the men outside saw her save the child. Their laughter died. They watched as she ran back into the workshop again, this time to pull out Elias's heavy tool chest. Sparks fell on her shoulders, but she did not stop. Why? Why is she saving his things? One man whispered, another spat angrily. She's still an alien. but his voice shook with doubt. Soraya collapsed near the door, coughing, the tool chest at her feet. Elias rushed to her side, helping her breathe. "You fool," he said, his voice breaking. "You could have died." Her eyes met his. "Better me than you. You gave us a home." I could not let it burn. The fire end's neighbors had gathered now. Some joined Elias, bringing buckets of water, forming a line to fight the flames. The fire died slowly, leaving the workshop blackened but standing. The men who started it slipped away into the night, their courage lost. But whispers spread through the crowd. "She saved the boy. She saved the shop. Maybe. She's not what we thought." A quiet moment when the fire was gone, Elia sat beside Soraya outside the workshop. Her face was tired, her clothes burned, but her arms still cradled Rin safely. "You risked everything," Elias said softly. She looked at him, our voice weak but steady. "You trusted me." I could not betray that. For a long time, Elia said nothing. Then, with quiet certainty, he replied, "You are family now." Her eyes widened. The words echoed inside her heart, stronger than any coin or shelter. Family, something she thought she had lost forever. The suspense ahead but. Even as the crowd whispered in awe, Soraya knew the danger was not gone. Some humans had seen her courage, but others would never change their hatred. The night was saved. But the war for acceptance had only begun. The screen fades to black. The night after the last rejection was colder than ever. The widow sat under the bridge, her child curled up in her lap. She hummed a quiet tune from her homeworld, a lullaby her husband once sang. The melody was soft, almost broken, carried away by the wind. But her child could not sleep. His small voice trembled. "Mama, if no one wants us, what will happen to me?" Her throat tightened. She kissed his forehead. "Do not fear. Tomorrow will be different," yet deep inside, she did not believe her own words. A chance encounter at dawn. The streets were quiet. She rose again, determined to try once more. She walked slowly through narrow lanes, past walls covered with posters and broken lamps. Then she saw him. A human man stood outside a small workshop, struggling to lift a heavy wooden box. His face was worn, his hands rough with years of work. He grunted, trying to move the load, but it slipped and nearly crushed his foot. Without thinking, the widow rushed forward. She caught the box before it fell. Her arms shook, but she managed to set it down safely. The man stepped back, breathing hard. His eyes widened when he saw her. You saved me," he said. She lowered her gaze. It was nothing. But he studied her closely. He saw her torn dress, the tired child hiding behind her. The hunger in their eyes. "Words of kindness wait," he said, softer now. "What are you doing here this early?" She hesitated, then answered truthfully. "I am looking for work, but no one will hire me. They see only what I am, not what I can do." The man frowned. "And what are you?" Her voice cracked. "A widow. An alien. A mother." For a long moment, he said nothing. The silence felt heavy, like all the rejections before. She prepared herself for the same words she had heard too many times. "Go away. We don't want your kind." But instead, he surprised her. "I don't care about where you're from," he said. "I care if you can work." Her heart skipped. She stared at him, not sure if she had heard correctly. The first meal, he gestured toward the workshop door. "Come inside. Both of you. You look like you haven't eaten in days." She hesitated. Her child clung tightly to her arm. Trust was dangerous. Too many times, humans had hurt them. But the smell of food drifted from inside. Inside, the workshop was small but warm. Wooden shelves lined the walls, filled with tools and parts. A kettle boiled softly on a stove. The man poured hot soup into 2 bowls. He placed one in front of the child. "Here, little one. Eat." The boy looked at his mother, uncertain. She gave a small nod. Slowly, he picked up the spoon and tasted it. His eyes lit up, the first smile she had seen from him in weeks. The widow whispered, "Thank you." The man sat across from them. "Name's Elias," he said. "I run this place alone." "It's hard work." She lowered her head. "I am Soraya." She touched her child's shoulder. "This is Rin." The offer Elias leaned back, folding his arms. "You said you need work. Can you use tools?" Soraya nodded quickly. "I can. I learned on my homeworld. Machines, repairs, even sewing. I will work hard. Please. I only ask for a chance." He studied her again. Not with hatred, not with fear, but with thought. Finally, he said, "I could use another pair of hands. The workshop is too much for one man. If you're serious, I'll let you help." Her breath caught. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. You would trust me." Elias shrugged. "Why not? You already saved my foot this morning, for the first time in a long time." Hope lit her face, a spark of suspense, but outside, through the workshop window. 2 human men saw her sitting inside with Elias. They frowned, whispered to each other, and walked away quickly. Soraya did not see them. She was busy cleaning the table, eager to prove herself. Elias handed her a cloth and smiled faintly, but the whispers had begun. And soon the city would talk. A night of safety that night. Elias cleared a small corner of the workshop for Soraya and Rin. He gave them blankets and a lamp. The child curled up on the blanket, belly full, finally sleeping without fear. Soraya sat quietly, watching the boy breathe peacefully. For the first time in many nights, she felt safe. She looked at Elias, who was closing the shop. "Why did you help us?" she asked softly. He paused. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone." Those words stayed with her. For the first time, she thought, maybe not every human was cruel. Maybe there was still hope. The screen fades to black. Suspense hook. Elias has shown kindness, but what will the other humans do when they discover he has given work and shelter to an alien widow? The next morning, the smell of wood and iron filled the little workshop. Elias was already at work, hammering metal on the bench. Sparks flew as his hands moved with skill and strength. Soraya stood at the side, watching carefully. She had not slept much, but her heart was lighter than it had been in many weeks. Her child Rin sat quietly on a stool, holding a small wooden toy Elias had carved for him the night before. A new beginning. Elias looked up. "You're awake? Good. If you still want work, I'll show you what needs to be done." Soraya nodded quickly. "Yes, I am ready." He pointed to a pile of broken tools. "These need fixing. Can you handle that?" She picked up one of the tools, a cracked spanner. Her alien hands, slightly different from human ones, moved with careful precision. She tightened bolts, adjusted edges, and after a few minutes, the tool looked new. Elias raised an eyebrow. Not bad. A small spark of pride lit in Soraya's chest. For once, she was not being judged for what she was, but for what she could do. The promise of shelter after hours of work. Elias poured water into cups and handed one to her. "You're useful?" "I wasn't sure at first, but—" "You can stay." Soraya froze. "Stay, you mean? Not just today?" He nodded. "I could use help every day, and the boy needs a safe place. You'll work, I'll pay in food and coin. It's not much, but it's honest." Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed a hand over her chest. "You don't know what this means to me. We had nothing. No one wanted us. Elias gave a small, almost tired smile. Now someone does. Rin clapped his little hands, his face glowing. Mama, we have a home. For a moment, warmth filled the workshop. Hope bloomed where there had been only fear. The child's first laughter as Soraya swept the floor later. Elias handed Rin a wooden block set. The boy began to build little towers, laughing when they fell. His laughter was soft but pure, echoing in the workshop. Soraya paused, her heart aching with joy. It had been so long since she had heard that sound. Elias noticed her smile. "He's a strong kid," he said. "Yes," she whispered. "Like his father." Her eyes dimmed with memory. Elias didn't press, but he understood. Some wounds were too deep for questions. The shadows outside, whispers had already started. Neighbors passing by saw the alien woman through the workshop window. They frowned. One woman muttered, "He's letting her work there." Another man sneered, "That alien will ruin his business." The rumors spread like fire through dry grass. The warning that evening. As Elias locked the shop door, a man from the market stopped him. "You're a fool," the man said sharply. "People are talking. They won't buy from you if you keep that alien in your shop." Elias stood firm. "She works hard. That's what matters." The man shook his head. "Kindness won't feed you when customers leave." He walked away, leaving his words like poison in the air. Elias glanced back at the workshop window. Inside, Soraya was helping Rin wash his hands, a gentle smile on her face. Elias sighed. He knew trouble was coming. A gift of trust later that night, Elias placed a small cloth bag on the table. Inside were a few coins. Soraya looked at it, then at him. "For me?" "For you," Elias said. "You earned it today." Her hands shook as she picked it up. She had not held real money in months. Tears filled her eyes again. "You treat us like we are human," she whispered. Elias looked at her firmly. "Because you are. Different, yes, but human enough where it matters." Her chest swelled with gratitude. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt like she belonged somewhere. A night of peace. Rin slept deeply that night, clutching the wooden toy. Soraya sat near the small lamp, sewing a torn cloth with careful stitches. Elias worked nearby, fixing a gear. The silence was not heavy. Not painful, it was peaceful, she thought. Perhaps tomorrow will be brighter. But outside, in the darkness, a group of men gathered near the workshop. Their voices were low, their eyes filled with anger. "That alien doesn't belong here. She ruined our trade. We should teach Elias a lesson." The widow did not hear them. Inside, for one fragile night, she believed she had found safety. The screen fades to black dot suspense hook. Soraya has finally been given a job and shelter. But how long before the city's hatred knocks on the workshop door? The city lights were bright, but for her, the world was dark. An alien widow walked slowly through the human streets, holding her child's tiny hand. Her clothes were torn, her face was tired, and her eyes looked like they carried the weight of the universe. People walked past her, busy with their lives, but none of them cared to stop. To them, she was just a stranger and outsider. The child tugged at her hand. "Mother?" "I am hungry," the little voice whispered. Her heart broke, but she smiled to give her child hope. She had no food, no money, no friends. All she had was her child and a dream that maybe, somewhere, someone would show kindness. She went to the first door. A bakery, the warm smell of bread filled the air. She pushed the door open and asked the owner, "Please, I can work. I clean, I carry. Just give me a job." The baker's eyes turned cold. "No aliens here." "Go away." He slammed the door in her face. Her child pressed against her side, frightened. The widow whispered, "It's all right. We will try again. She walked to another place. A clothing shop. Beautiful dresses hung in the window, glowing under soft light. She stepped inside. Please, she begged. I can sew. I can help. Just give me a chance. The shopkeeper's smile faded as soon as he saw her alien features, her pale skin, her different eyes. He shook his head. Customers don't want your kind here. Leave. Again, the door closed. The night grew colder. A strong wind rushed through the empty streets. She wrapped her arms around her child to keep him warm. She could feel him shivering. Flashbacks haunted her mind. She remembered her husband, strong and brave, standing in front of their home on the alien world. War had come. He fought to protect their family. She remembered his final words before he left for the battlefield. Protect our child. Promise me, no matter what happens, you will keep him safe. And now, here she was, alone, a widow. On a foreign planet where no one wanted her. The rain began to fall. First small drops, then heavy sheets of water. The city streets turned shiny and wet. Humans hurried inside their homes, safe and warm. She and her child had nowhere to go. She saw a factory in the distance, smoke rising from tall chimneys. Maybe here, she thought. Maybe they will need workers. She gathered her courage, walked to the heavy gates, and knocked. A guard came out, his face hard. What do you want? I need work, she said. I am strong. I will not fail, please. I only ask for a chance. The guard looked at her child. You bring the brat with you. No. We don't want problems. Go away before I call the police. Her chest tightened. She pulled her child close and turned away. Behind her, she could hear the guard laughing. Her child looked up at her with innocent eyes. Why do they hate us, Mama? Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. She had no answer. They reached a small alley. The smell of garbage was strong, but it gave them shelter from the storm. She sat on the ground, holding her child in her lap. She stroked his wet hair, whispering, Sleep, little one. Tomorrow will be better. But inside, she was breaking. Tomorrow might be worse. Tomorrow they might starve. In the silence of the alley, her stomach growled with hunger. Her child was weak, eyes half closed. She thought about stealing. Just one piece of bread, but she couldn't. Her husband's voice still echoed in her mind. Protect him. Keep him safe. Do not lose your honor. The rain poured harder, and thunder cracked across the sky. A shadow moved at the end of the alley. She froze. Her heart raced. Was it danger? A thief? A human who hated aliens? The shadow grew closer. She held her child tightly, ready to protect him with her life. Her breath was heavy, her eyes wide with fear. The figure stopped just a few steps away. A human man. His face was hidden under the hood of his coat. He said nothing. He just stood there, watching her. Her heart pounded louder. She whispered to herself, Is he here to hurt us? Or to help? The child stirred and opened his eyes. The little one saw the man and whispered weakly, Mama? Is he kind? The mother did not know. The silence between them was heavy, filled with danger and suspense. The man slowly lifted his hand. And she flinched. The screen fades to black. The man in the alley had disappeared before dawn. She never knew if he was real or just her tired mind playing tricks in the storm. When the sun rose, she wiped the rain from her child's face, stood up and whispered, We must keep moving. Somewhere. Someone will need us. The city was alive again. Shops opened, machines roared, voices filled the streets. To her, it felt like walking into a world made of glass, everything shining. Everything sharp, but never safe. Her child walked beside her, holding tightly to her hand. His steps were small, but his eyes were wide, always searching for kindness that never came. The first door, she found a small cafe at the corner. The smell of coffee drifted into the air. She took a deep breath and entered. "Please," she said softly to the owner, a man wiping cups behind the counter. "I can work. I can clean tables, wash dishes. Just give me one chance." The man looked her up and down. His eyes stopped on her alien skin, her different eyes, her torn dress. His face turned sour. "Get out," he said flatly. "If customers see you, they will leave. I run a business, not a shelter." She lowered her head, whispered thank you, and left. Her child tugged her hand. "Why do they not see we can help?" She had no answer. The second door, they reached a workshop where metal clanged loudly. She stepped inside. Sparks flew from machines. A group of workers paused to stare at her. "I am strong," she said. "I can lift, I can work with tools. Please, I will not ask for much." The foreman laughed. "Strong, you." He pointed at her child. "You come with that. This is no place for babies. Go beg somewhere else." The workers laughed with him. The sound cut through her like a blade. She turned, her child hiding behind her, and walked away. The third door by noon, her feet hurt. She saw a school, children running and laughing inside the yard. For a moment, she imagined her child among them, safe, smiling, learning. She went to the gate. A woman in uniform stopped her. "I beg you," the alien widow said. "Let my child learn here. I will work in exchange. Please, he needs a chance." The woman's face hardened. "This school is for humans. We don't teach outsiders. Take him away." The widow fell silent. She felt her child's small fingers grip her hand tighter. His voice was low, broken. "Mama, they don't want me." Her chest ached. She wanted to scream, but her throat was too heavy with pain. The world turns away door after door. Hour after hour, the answer was always the same. No aliens, no jobs, no place for you. Some people laughed at her. Some shouted. Some threw words sharper than knives. By evening, she was back on the street, sitting on a cold stone step. Her child leaned against her shoulder, tired and hungry. She thought about her husband again. His strong arms, his brave heart. He had fought for freedom, for their people's survival. And yet here she was, begging strangers for bread. Why does no one see us? She whispered into the night air, the harshest rejection as the stars appeared. She tried one last time. A large store, full of light and goods. She entered, her child close behind. "Please," she said to the manager. "I will clean floors, stack shelves, anything. My child and I. We only need food." The manager's face twisted in disgust. "Aliens like you don't belong here. If I see you again, I will call the guards." Her child tugged her sleeve. "Mama, let's go." But the manager wasn't done. He shouted loud enough for others to hear. "Everyone look. A beggar alien mother trying to steal our jobs." Shoppers turned their eyes on her, cold, sharp, judgmental. Some whispered, others laughed. Her face burned with shame. She grabbed her child's hand and ran outside, her heart beating like thunder. Alone in the dark, they reached a small bridge outside the city. The night was silent, except for the sound of water below. She sat with her child, wrapping her arms around him. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I try, but no one wants us." The child buried his face in her chest. "Mama, don't cry. One day, someone will help." Her tears fell quietly. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe tomorrow could be different, but the city behind her was cold and full of closed doors. And the night ahead was long. Still, she held her child tighter. her heart whispering the same promise she made to her husband. I will protect him. I will not give up. The screen fades to black dot suspense hook. How long can she survive when the world rejects her again and again? And will she ever find the one human who dares to help?